3:30 a.m. The Gulf of Aden is shrouded in thick darkness, the sea silent like a giant grave swallowing every sound. But on the radar screen of the USNS Bighorn, that fake piece was just torn apart by a series of flashing red alarms. Not one, not two, but over 40 speedboats are rushing in from all directions with the speed of predatory beasts. This is every sailor's worst nightmare, a swarm attack on a scale never before seen in modern history. 250 aggressive Somali pirates, armed with RPG 7 seconds and AK-47 rifles, are frantically tightening the circle. Their goal is not just looting, but capturing a massive U.S. Navy ship to create a global hostage crisis. Roaring engines tear through the night, and the first flashes of firepower have started to spark on the pitch-black horizon, signaling death. The American crew has only a few short seconds to make a life-or-death decision. Surrender or turn this sea into a bloody cauldron of fire. A battle unequal in numbers, but extremely brutal in firepower and technology, officially begins right at this very moment. The USNS Bighorn, a sluggish giant laden with aviation fuel, is moving alone about 80 nautical miles off the coast of Somalia. With a displacement of over 40,000 tons, this ship is like a floating treasure chest, but also an extremely vulnerable target in the ocean. Taking advantage of the pitch-black night and rolling waves, 40 small speedboats have cut their lights, silently approaching the target like ghosts. The Bighorn's navigational radar struggles significantly to detect these small composite targets moving right against the water's surface. By the time the watch officer spots the unusual blips on the thermal sensor screen, the distance has already closed to less than 2 miles. Immediately, the ear-piercing general quarters alarm sounds, waking the entire crew in a state of sheer panic. But the enemy gives them no time to prepare, as 40 high-powered engines roar in unison, tearing apart the silence of the night. 250 pirates, split into 4 pincer attack groups, rush the American ship at speeds reaching up to 50 knots. They employ the classic Wolfpack tactic, using overwhelming numbers to confuse the enemy's command and observation systems. The first flash sparks from a lead skiff, followed by the distinctive white smoke trail of an RPG-7 anti-tank round. The round slams into the Bighorn's hull, exploding violently, tearing a massive hole and sending metal shrapnel flying across the deck. Before the explosion fades, hundreds of AK-47 seconds from the skiffs open fire simultaneously, raining bullets upon the ship's superstructure. The bridge windows shatter, forcing the captain and officers to hit the deck to avoid the dense hail of gunfire. The ship's security team, consisting of lightly armed personnel, attempts to reach the heavy M2 Browning machine gun positions to return fire. However, the enemy fire is too intense. Anyone raising their head above the guardrail instantly becomes a target for dozens of guns. This is a prime example of asymmetric warfare, where cheap weapons in large numbers can neutralize modern technology. These pirates are not starving fishermen. They are professional mercenaries equipped with night vision goggles and methamphetamines. Under the influence of stimulants, they become insanely reckless, willing to ram their skiffs right up against the giant hull despite the danger. A .50 caliber machine gun from the U.S. security team finally opens fire, the large rounds tearing up the water and blowing apart one skiff. But destroying one skiff out of 40 is like trying to kill a single ant while the entire colony is rushing at you. The pirates change tactics, moving in chaotic zigzag patterns, making it extremely difficult for the ship's gunners to aim accurately. 3 more RPGs are launched, this time aiming directly at the Bighorn's radar tower and satellite communication systems. A massive explosion rocks the ship. The main comms system is disabled, and billowing black smoke obscures the defender's vision. Exploiting the chaos, 10 suicide skiffs pull up alongside the port and starboard sides, throwing grappling hook ladders onto the railings. The sound of metal clanging against the hull rings out clearly, signaling a new phase of the battle. The boarding has begun. The Bighorn's captain screams into the intercom, ordering the entire crew to retreat to the secure citadel in the ship's hold. But the security team cannot retreat. They are the last line of defense, preventing these savages from seizing control of the ship. On deck, the firefight shifts to close range, the sound of American M4 carbines clashing with the sharp cracks of AK-47 seconds. The first pirates have climbed onto the deck, their eyes bloodshot, mouths screaming wild jihadist slogans. They don't seek cover but run and gun wildly, using their superior numbers to overwhelm the American defensive positions. A security team member takes a bullet to the shoulder, collapsing but still trying to return fire with a pistol at the rushing shadows. The situation is becoming desperate. The giant ship of the world's #1 superpower is being swallowed by a pack of hungry wolves. Analyzing deeper, we see the strategic error lies in complacency, letting a logistics ship traverse dangerous waters without escort. The U.S. Navy was too confident in its deterrent power, forgetting that the adversary does not play by the rules of conventional warfare. These pirates understand the weakness of large ships, the deadly blind spots at extremely close range that radar cannot sweep. They also know that U.S. rules of engagement are often cautious, causing sailors to hesitate to open fire right from the start. That very hesitation in the first few minutes has been paid for by the fact that the enemy has now set foot on the deck. At this moment, at the 5th Fleet Command Center hundreds of miles away, the final broken distress signal from the Bighorn is decoded. A chilling atmosphere envelops the war room as officers realize the sheer severity of this attack. This is no longer a routine piracy incident. This is a direct declaration of war on the prestige of the United States Navy. On the Bighorn, the security team leader pops a smoke grenade to blind the enemy, trying to buy time for his squad. But through the smoke, he sees dozens more climbing up like ants, guns ready in their hands. Another RPG round whizzes past the conning tower, exploding right next to the main funnel, shaking the ship violently as if it might break apart. Oil from ruptured pipes begins to spill across the deck, the risk of fire and explosion looming over the entire fuel tanker. In that moment of despair, the American soldiers can only pray and fight with their last survival instincts. They need a miracle or a firestorm from the heavens to wipe out the demons surrounding them. And that miracle, or rather, the Grim Reaper of the U.S. Navy, is beginning to wake up on the distant horizon. 50 nautical miles to the north, the quiet atmosphere on the bridge of the destroyer USS Lassen is suddenly shattered. The Mayday signal from the Bighorn rings out urgently on the emergency frequency, accompanied by the sharp sound of gunfire in the background. The captain of the Lassen, with a face of stone, immediately orders a transition to full combat stations and maximum speed. 4 General Electric LM2500 gas turbine engines roar like beasts, pushing the 9,000-ton ship through the water at over 31 knots. But the warship's speed is not enough. The situation on the Bighorn is hanging by a thread and requires immediate intervention. An emergency scramble order is transmitted to the flight deck, where 2 MH-60R Seahawk helicopters are ready with rotors spinning. These Warhawks do not carry lifebuoys. Under their bellies are Hellfire missiles and laser-guided rocket pods. Within minutes, the 2 helicopters tear through the night sky, rushing toward the hot coordinates like harbingers of death. Back at the scene, the situation for the security team on the Bighorn has become desperate as ammunition runs low. Suddenly, a distinctive sound roars overhead, the thumping chop of helicopter blades drowning out even the submachine gun fire. From an altitude of 300 meters, 2 high-power searchlights from the Seahawks beam directly down onto the pitch-black sea. The night is instantly banished, exposing the entire formation of 40 pirate skiffs surrounding their prey like a swarm of ants. A steel-hard voice booms from the LRAD long-range acoustic device, hitting the water with enough intensity to rupture eardrums. This is the United States Navy. You are attacking U.S. government property. Cease immediately or you will be destroyed. The warning is repeated in Somali, but that goodwill is answered with bursts of AK fire shot defiantly into the sky. The pirates, high on bloodlust and stimulants, make a fatal mistake. They think the helicopters are only there to intimidate. A bullet grazes the fuselage of Seahawk 1, leaving a small scratch but triggering the Americans' true fury. The rules of engagement change instantly. The order weapons free is issued to the entire squadron. The weapons officer on the helicopter locks onto the largest command skiff, which is shouting orders over the radio. An AGM-114 Hellfire missile leaves the rail, trailing white smoke as it plunges toward the sea at supersonic speed. There is no loud bang like in movies, just a blinding flash, and the command skiff evaporates completely in an instant. The FLIR infrared sensor on the helicopter records the scene with brutal coldness. Heat signatures are extinguished forever. Still in shock, the pirates continue to face a rain of bullets from the helicopter's door-mounted M240 machine guns. Aerial gunners, equipped with modern night vision, pick off each skiff with precision, as if playing a video game. The sea around the Bighorn turns into a chaotic cauldron of fire, with columns of water erupting from incoming rounds. But the number of skiffs is still too high. They scatter like angry bees, trying to hide in the dark or hug the tanker's hull to avoid fire. Just then, on the horizon, the looming silhouette of the destroyer USS Lassen begins to emerge like a floating fortress. The AEGIS radar on the Lassen has locked onto all small targets moving around the Bighorn from 10 miles away. The captain orders the use of the 5-inch Mark 45 naval gun, a weapon of terrifying destructive power, to establish a ring of death. Fire airburst rounds. Fragmentation mode. Clear the zone 500 meters from the friendly ship. The cold order is given. A thunderous muzzle blast shakes the ship as the shell screams away at 3 times the speed of sound. The shell does not hit the water but explodes in midair, directly above the formation of speedboats trying to flee. Thousands of razor-sharp steel fragments rain down, shredding the fragile composite hulls of the skiffs. The shockwave from the airburst crushes the chests of the surviving pirates, forcing blood from their ears and noses. Strategic analysis shows this is perfect air-sea coordination that no irregular force can withstand. Helicopters act as the eyes and the scalpel, picking off the most dangerous targets clinging to the tanker. Meanwhile, the destroyer acts as the sledgehammer, using area effect firepower to smash the swarm's will to fight. The pirates who were once screaming aggressively are now turning to flee in despair, leaving their sinking comrades behind. But the U.S. Navy isn't stopping. They want to ensure no one returns to tell a story of victory. The fire control system on the Lassen continues calculating firing solutions, adjusting gun elevation to pursue the fleeing targets. On thermal screens, the water around the Bighorn has turned glowing red from the heat of explosions and fuel fires. However, the greatest danger remains unresolved. Those who managed to board the Bighorn are still lurking. The fleet outside can clear the sea, but they cannot fire on their own ship to destroy the intruders. The Bighorn's captain reports via a secure radio channel that the pirate group is trying to breach the citadel door with explosives. If they seize the engine room or take the crew hostage, the fleet's entire firepower will become useless. This is the time for a different kind of weapon, more precise, more ruthless, and better suited for confined spaces. From the stern of the destroyer Lassen, a specialized RHIB speedboat is quietly launched in the shadow of the hull. On board are 12 men dressed in black from head to toe, men with no names, no numbers, only a mission. The Navy SEALs have entered the fray, bringing the scythe of death to finish the job on the blood-soaked deck. The battle is about to shift to its bloodiest phase, close quarters combat in the dark within cold steel corridors. 12 dark figures from the RHIB silently hook magnetic ladders onto the hull of the Bighorn, cold and professional. They move like cats in the night, making no sound that could rise above the waves crashing against the steel hull. This is SEAL Team 6, the world's leading experts in close quarters combat and maritime hostage rescue operations. On their helmets is the GPNVG-18 panoramic night vision system with 4 tubes, turning pitch blackness into broad daylight. In their eyes, the chaotic deck appears in green phosphor, where every movement of the enemy is laid bare. The pirates are still busy firing at the steel door of the citadel, completely unaware that death is standing right behind them. The SEAL team leader signals with his hand, splitting the formation into 2 small groups, executing the slicing the pie technique to clear corners. Soft thwip. Thwip sounds emit from their specialized suppressed HK-416 rifles, sounding like nothing more than a gentle cough. 2 pirates guarding the stairs to the bridge collapse instantly to the deck, a small hole appearing on each of their foreheads. They die without hearing the shot and without having time to utter a single sound to alert their comrades ahead. The Special Ops team advances, stepping over enemy bodies with cold determination, their muzzles always following their gaze. At the Citadel entrance, 10 pirates are frantically attaching homemade plastic explosives to the hinges of the reinforced steel door. A flashbang grenade is tossed from the shadows, clattering across the iron deck and stopping right at the pirates' feet. A deafening bang accompanied by million candle power light erupts, paralyzing the enemy's vision and hearing in an instant. In those 5 golden seconds, the SEALs storm in like a hurricane, weapons firing with the absolute precision of machines. The double tap tactic is executed flawlessly. 1 round to the chest to destroy the heart, 1 to the head to destroy the brain. 10 pirates fall like dominoes, blood staining the slippery, oil-slick deck, and not a single one moves again. Secure zone is under control. Targets neutralized. The team leader's calm voice comes over the encrypted radio. Meanwhile, outside the hull, the final slaughter is coming to an end with the participation of another monster. The destroyer USS Lassen has moved close enough to activate its Phalanx CIWS close-in weapon system in surface mode. The 6-barreled 20mm rotary cannon, usually used to shoot down missiles, now lowers its barrel, pointing straight at the remaining skiffs. A terrifying sound rings out, the distinctive brrrr sounding like a giant canvas being ripped apart in the middle of the ocean. With a rate of fire of 4,500 rounds per minute, the Phalanx creates an impenetrable wall of tungsten armor-piercing fire. The speedboats hit don't just explode. They are literally sawed in half by the sheer kinetic energy of the rounds. Seawater sprays up, mixing with composite shards and what remains of those who dared challenge the U.S. Navy. Technical analysis shows there is absolutely no chance of survival when facing a Phalanx at a range of less than 2 miles. The surviving pirates on distant skiffs, witnessing their comrades being pulverized, suffer a complete mental collapse. They throw their weapons into the sea, raise their hands high, and wave white shirts in desperation, begging for mercy from the steel monster. But the war machine has no emotions. It only stops when radar confirms no threats are moving at attack speeds. An eerie silence returns to envelop the Gulf of Aden, leaving only the crackling of fire on the bobbing, floating debris. The SEAL team on the Bighorn signals all clear. The captain opens the Citadel door, stepping out to see the devastation on deck. The acrid smell of gunpowder mixes with the metallic scent of blood and diesel fuel to create a stifling, nauseating atmosphere. The battle lasted less than 45 minutes, but it has completely shifted the balance of power in this region. The U.S. side suffered no fatalities, only a few sailors with minor injuries from shattered glass and the initial blast pressure. In contrast, the pirates were almost completely wiped out. Over 200 dead, the rest taken as prisoners of war. This is the clearest proof that sheer numbers can never compensate for the disparity in technology and training. Human wave or swarm tactics are only effective when the enemy panics, but they are useless against a disciplined military machine. The image of burning skiffs on the Black Sea will serve as the most powerful deterrent message sent to the warlords in Somalia. The U.S. has proven they don't just patrol for show, but are ready to turn the ocean into a graveyard for enemies when provoked. As dawn begins to break in the east, sunlight illuminates the American flag still flying on the mast of the tattered Bighorn. A new order has been re-established on this vital maritime route. The Order of the Strongest. The sun slowly rises over the Gulf of Aden, its first rays piercing the black smoke, illuminating a battlefield stained with oil and blood. Silence has returned, but it is heavier and gloomier than ever, with only the sound of waves lapping against the Bighorn's scorched hull. Over 40 speedboats that once rushed in aggressively like a wolf pack are now just composite plastic debris floating aimlessly. The price paid for blind recklessness is too high. Over 200 gunmen dead, the rest kneeling on the U.S. deck with hands bound tight. This simulation shows us a brutal truth about modern warfare. Quantity can never triumph over quality. Human wave or swarm tactics may cause momentary surprise, but they are utterly hopeless against high-precision firepower. The U.S. Navy has proven that their defense systems are not just lifeless blocks of iron, but perfectly programmed killing machines. From the high-altitude AEGIS God Eyes to the close-range Phalanx buzzsaws, everything coordinates to create an absolute no-go zone. This event also sends a chilling message of deterrence to any power, whether insurgent or nation-state, intending to provoke. Never underestimate the reaction capabilities of a superpower, even when they seem distracted or resting on their laurels. As Japan's Admiral Yamamoto once said in World War II, "I fear all we have done is to awaken a sleeping giant." Today, that giant woke up in the Gulf of Aden, and its fury turned an entire pirate fleet into ash. Peace on vital shipping lanes is not maintained by prayers, but protected by the power of gun barrels and steel discipline. The USNS Bighorn continues its journey, bearing the scars of war like medals of courage. While deep on the ocean floor, the wrecks and bodies will remain forever, serving as a silent warning for future generations. Thank you for watching this dramatic strategic simulation scenario on the US Military Channel. If you found this scenario engaging, please hit like and subscribe to join us in analyzing the next military hotspots. Goodbye and see you again in other top-tier strategic analysis videos.